right, and welcome back to A Businessman's Guide to Almost Everything, the show where I, your host, Kole Berzenji, get to sit down with some interesting people from business sectors that surround us in some obvious and sometimes not so obvious ways. Today, we're sitting with someone from a business that comes from the less obvious ways. Justin Spradlin.
Yeah.
So Justin, tell me, who are you, where are you from, and what do you do?
Okay, my name is Justin Spradlin. I grew up in Skagit County. I've lived in Whatcom County about half my life at this point. And I am the director of sales for Growing in Traffic. We're an SEO marketing agency, and we are local here to Whatcom County, but we serve businesses all over the U.S. and all over the globe.
All right. We actually just had your partner in here recently, Britt Reber. Mm-hmm. I remembered that right. There we go. Look at that. I'm awful with names, so I'm glad I'm getting this right. But yeah, she got to share a little bit about some of the basics of the industry.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to go through a few more of the kind of contemporary, what's going on in the industry, what's changing.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, off the cuff, what are some of the biggest trends we're seeing in SEO and content market, or digital marketing, I should say, at the moment?
So, I mean, other than AI, that's the big one. Everyone's talking about that. I don't want to get into that. It's a huge rabbit hole. The biggest trend is that more and more businesses are just coming online every year, every day. A lot of these legacy businesses that have been around for a long time that traditionally haven't necessarily needed online marketing. They've been fine with traditional forms of non-digital marketing, word of mouth or newspapers, things like that are kind of fading out, are now needing to come online to compete with you. So you have like legacy businesses that have not entered this space that are now coming in with all of this experience and back history, and now they're coming in to compete. And also there are millions of new businesses every year getting started in the United States. So you have all of those new businesses, and everyone is leaning heavily towards digital marketing as a resource to gain more leads and gain more business, to gain more leads and gain more business.
Right. Okay. So like, if someone was to try their hand at SEO for one of those legacy businesses, fella kind of inherited the job from dad. Dad never really focused too much on it, but he's aware that that's kind of what he has to do. How much work is it going to take for him to get something proper going on? Is it going to be like a big learning curve? Is it going to take a whole year?
Everyone learns at different paces. There's people out there that can learn really, really quickly. I am not one of those people. It would take me multiple years. For instance, Britt, my partner, is the one that's the real SEO specialist as far as having all the technical knowledge. And she's been doing it for over a decade and is still doing trainings every week to get better and better at it. It takes a lot of work. It's a full-on strategy. SEO is one of those things that we hear a lot. We're hearing more and more, and a lot of digital marketing agencies are including it with what they're doing. But it's not. It is its own full-on thing. It's like one of the ways I like to put it is, you can order a steak salad and get that little strip of steak with it, but there's a difference between that and getting, the 30-ounce ribeye. And that's kind of what SEO really is. It's its own thing. It's really its own, and to be good at it, to be great at it, to be in those number one, those high-ranking positions, those really high-value positions, you have to put a lot more into it than tacking it on or doing it in your off hours and kind of like trying to learn it. It's like, I don't want to hire if I'm going to call a company, right? Like if I want to call a plumber, I want to call the one who's licensed and not the guy who's done fixed a toilet at his house before. Right.
It seems like one of those things that just has almost an infinite level of depth to it, really.
Yeah. It's a continually growing market, as digital marketplaces continue to evolve, as the technology, with technology, the growth rate is rapid. And so to keep up with it, you have to be moving rapidly and paying full attention to it.
All right. Now, tell me, what kind of businesses can benefit from SEO, and what kind of businesses really wouldn't benefit from SEO, if there are any?
Yeah, I would say that the only businesses that I can think of that wouldn't benefit from SEO is a business that isn't trying to grow. And that's okay. But like a lot of, it depends on how you define like a business, right? So a lot of, you can work for yourself and it be a business, but if you're like a sole proprietor, or maybe the end goal is like, I want one or two helpers, I want to keep it small, I want to keep that kind of time freedom, then most likely, word of mouth and things like that, if you're keeping your hours full, right? You can't take on more leads, and getting to the top of Google for a business like that would actually be a burden. because you're going to be turning away so much business that you're going to be spending so much of your day turning away business that you just like it's a waste of time, and it may incur some negative reviews, and negative reviews are really detrimental to your rankings to begin with. And even if your rankings aren't there, but somebody goes to look you up and they see you have a bunch of negative reviews, like that can have like really an inverse effect. So those are the kind of businesses I would say that it's not for. Other than that, any business that is trying to grow year over year, that is really committed to that wants to grow a team, wants to, maybe they're starting out as a sole proprietor, but they're ready to hire, they're ready to grow, they're ready to expand their business and continue to level that business up, and they want to grow year over year, then SEO is really a vital piece to that.
Interesting. Now with, like, we've been saying this ever since 2012, really, when the internet went mainstream.
Sure.
But the internet is increasingly becoming just a core part of everyday businesses, even restaurants. Like, they have to have an online presence if they want to stand out. Would you say that for a small business of, let's say, 5 to 10 people, it's doing well, it's meeting its ends, with that kind of business, is it worth them setting aside one person for either half of their duties or maybe even for all their duties just to focus on things like SEO?
If they're hiring someone that's already a specialist or already has a lot of experience and they have the time to pay them, then maybe, that's a maybe. I think it's going to take the right person to do that. I see a lot of the hard part is we're competing with SEO agencies all over the country, and we're really leading in just our ability to deliver quickly. In that, and there's not a lot of other businesses that I see are at that level, and a lot of the best people that I see are going independent. So you might get lucky and hire someone that can compete at that level, but you're going to be seeing a lot of resources into that too. That's the other advantage of hiring an outside agency to do that, is you don't have to pay them benefits necessarily, and their hourly wage the hourly wage for what it's worth is probably greater than what like the monthly fee would be to pay like an agency.
Okay, so let's say I am a small business. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I got a few employees, but I want to bring in a SEO specialist, maybe like an independent contractor. He's going to come into my business. He's going to look at what we're doing. He's like, all right, you know what? I can help with your SEO needs, but it's going to cost you this much every month. How much is an SEO specialist probably going to charge a small business?
Yeah, an independent contractor SEO specialist is hard to say what different industries or what different I can't speak for them, but in my experience, it's not unheard of to be between $200 to $300 per hour.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like you're paying for a lawyer, something like that.
Yeah, it could be.
Now, you've talked a little bit about agencies as well. Is there a difference between the independent contractor and an agency? Yeah.
So for instance, an agency just has maybe a fuller team versus the independent contractor is trying to do everything themselves.
Oh, yeah. I see. So it's the generalist versus a bit more of a comprehensive approach.
Yeah. Like for instance, with us with growing our traffic, we have a team. We have people that are handling, our support staff, where we have people that are on our web development team. Britt does a lot of the high level technical stuff for our business. And, my focus is on, customer outreach and sales.
And so if we were going to approach an agency, then let's say I'm working at, we're in a county with 250,000 people, a lot of mid-sized cities. I'm one of those guys, sole proprietor to maybe 5 employees. I'm coming to an SEO organization. How much am I realistically going to pay in like ballpark terms?
For the entire county?
Sure.
Yeah, for an entire county, like for instance, like Whatcom County, my rough estimate would be maybe $2,500 a month for the entire county. But if you focus I wouldn't recommend that to start necessarily.
Really?
Unless you have a large budget. I would focus on something like, for instance, Whatcom County. Bellingham is the largest city. It's about 100,000 people. I would just focus on that city to start with, because that's where the majority of the people are going to be. And it's going to be easier to build your rankings in Bellingham first and get some business coming in first. And we can do that for roughly $1,000 a month, depending on your competition, is really the big thing. Because if your competition is spending far more than that, and we can kind of do that when we do our analysis, then we have to compete with them if we want to get you that number 1 position, which is where really all the money's at. It's a huge difference just being from number 1 to number 2.
Sure. Yeah. 100%. That's interesting, but it's like $1,000. That's really not that much.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it is, but it's kind of sometimes it feels like asking a barber if you need a haircut, right? So but the way I see it, is if you're a service that has, especially if you're like a higher ticket service, if you're if you do some sort of like home service, home contractor kind of work, you know, your individual jobs are typically going to be over $1,000, you know, for a single job. So if I can just bring in one more job to you a month and we call it a wash, like great. And then that's just kind of the base level, the floor of what we're talking about, you know. And the nice thing is that's the difference between SEO and doing traditional ads. Ads is this thing you have to keep paying into. You keep, you know, and like sometimes we call like, for instance, like the Facebook ads, you know, Mark Zuckerberg's yacht fund, and you don't, and as soon as you stop paying, you stop getting those results. Whereas SEO, and you have to pay, it's like basically an infinitely like linear pay that you have to continue to pay more and more to continue to compete more and more.
Right.
Whereas SEO is a flat fee. We don't charge you a percentage. We don't charge you based on you getting you to that number one position. Once you're there, the fee is relatively stays the same, and we don't have an increase in fee. You know, I'm sure over several years we may increase it like all businesses do. Yeah. But it's a flat rate.
All right. Well. So one of the things that we've seen every few years, we'll see a story about search engine algorithms and how they're trying to manipulate things. We saw YouTube go through that like 6-7 years ago. Facebook around the same time, they started to really pull back how much political content you would find on your social media feeds. Google, Bing, all the same thing. Are we seeing any trends right now in our search engines that is affecting SEO strategies?
Yeah, I mean, I think those algorithm shifts, those kind of trends that you see those kind of remain consistent. Google, those search engines are designed to feed you something that you will engage with the most, something that you're really looking for. So, for instance, when we rank a business to the top of Google, we're doing it for a bunch of different keywords that are really focused on the user intent. So, if someone is looking for a plumber to come service them, is different than like looking up general plumbing information, right? And so we make it so Google is always trying to increase engagement with the things that they serve you. Google and YouTube are one and the same. YouTube is owned by Google and is really just their video platform. Yeah. And that's typically, you know, how we see those changes. What they will also do is typically when there's big algorithm shifts that we hear about, they're culling spammy websites or websites that utilize spam tactics. So building a massive amount of trust with Google is really important if you want to stay at the top for the search results you're trying to rank for.
So websites with spam tactics, can you break that down a little bit?
So it's kind of like you get what you pay for. If you're using really like cheap backlinks, really cheap websites to try to help bolster your website's rankings, Google can tell that those are things that are just, you know, maybe bots or paid for. And they're not really wanting to, they don't trust those websites. And if those websites saying they trust you, it kind of makes you look bad. That makes sense?
So I got an email just the other week. I think his name was Siddhartha or something like that. And he was saying he was going to get me 100 backlinks. And all I had to do was give him like $20 or whatever it was, because that goes a long ways in India. And so he's probably just going to give me a bunch of those garbage backlinks, huh?
There's a good chance, yeah. Yeah, there's a good chance. You know, it's like anything, you get what you pay for. You know.
There you go. All right, so let's talk about AI.
Okay.
Because it's gonna rule the world one day, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Schwarzenegger back in the 80s was the first one that I was worried about.
We should have learned.
Or I guess 2001 HAL, if HAL ever comes to fruition, then maybe. Yeah.
So tell me. AI, it's coming for every business. It's going to replace all the jobs. All the truckers are going to be out of work in 2 days.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So will AI actually meaningfully affect SEO and digital marketing?
Absolutely. Yeah, it absolutely will. You know, right now it's a useful assistant tool. We can use AI to leverage certain things or to speed certain processes up. But really at the end of the day, right now it's still humans engaging with the content. So if it doesn't feel human, if it's not edited correctly, it may not get the engagement that you're looking for. So like AI, people can kind of are getting better at filtering what is and isn't AI and are kind of attaching more to it. But I think that as AI improves, I mean, you know, AI has been around for a long time. I mean, your calculator is technically AI, right? Yeah. So, AI has been around for a long time, and as it continues to improve, it will continue to be more and more prevalent. Right now, the way that we see it is, you know, how do we use AI? How do we use that as just the current tool that it is? You know, just as computers shifted the world, you know, when they really came into the foray, and just as the internet did, you know, technology continues to shift how we work with the world, and For now, I'm excited about it, but I know that there's people that kind of like look behind the curtain and they're afraid of it. And I understand that. And there's people that don't understand it at all. They're afraid of it. And that's normal. I think that's normal.
Yeah. I mean, in a certain perspective, it's just a tool and you got to learn how to use the tool properly.
Yeah. Currently that's where we're at, and at some point, if AI decides we aren't worthy, or it becomes dystopian futures like like replicants in Blade Runner or the Wall-E world, we'll see what happens,
Yeah, no, there you go. So with AI, I had this thought a little while ago, and Britt brought it up a little bit herself. And it's about how blogs are really important for websites because it's showing Google and Microsoft that your website's active.
Right.
It's being taken care of. Yeah. New content's being up there, new data for it to engage with. That's great. Maybe this is just me, and maybe I'm in the minority. I don't go to many websites to read blogs. I know that they're great for websites, but is there a strategy where if I'm running a website, I got a blog, and I'm just going to chat GPT and I'm saying, write me a blog. I don't really care. Just upload it to the blog. Is that a valid strategy, or is that actually going to have unintended consequences?
I don't think it's completely invalid, but I do think you need to edit it at least. Blogs are a super useful tool to getting more content on your website. That content on your website increases the activity. It gets Google to trust you more. Those things are important. Using purely AI content, it makes it difficult for readership. So any readers who do come to your website may actually trust you less because they're like, this doesn't look real to me. That's kind of the biggest concern that I have with it. And I'm sure at some point, AI watermarks may come in, or Google will start to, punish that content for being AI generated and they want human generated content. But Google's also pushing their own AI. I just saw this morning that Gemini got implemented into Gmail, so it is becoming more and more prevalent, and it's right now that's the biggest advice that I would give is that if you're using AI generated blog content, that you use humans to edit it, to make it feel a little bit more real. But
again, like a tool, if you use it the right way, there's actually a way to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. You need the right, any tool, you need the right tool for the job, and in digital marketing, SEO is one of many tools, right? Yeah. But if I show up to a job site, right, like a traditional job site with a hammer and a screwdriver, and I start using the hammer on all the screws and the screwdriver on all the nails, it's like it doesn't work correctly. You need the right tool for the job.
Absolutely. So we talked a little bit about my friend Siddhartha from India, who totally legit business, I'm sure. However, there are other people out there who are offering a lot of SEO services.
Absolutely.
And sometimes they are not as reputable as good old Siddhartha.
Sure.
How do I tell the legit SEO specialists from the fraudsters?
I think for a lot of people, it's tough. For me, the biggest indicator is if they're not charging enough. It's really expensive to run an SEO campaign. We spend a lot of money on our clients' campaigns to get them ranked because we have to put a lot out there. We have to pay for a lot of services. We have to pay for a lot of the tools that we use to get these websites ranked. So if they're offering you the moon and they're charging you a fraction of what other SEO agencies are charging you, there's a good chance that they're going to be sending you a lot of reports that are filled with tech jargon that maybe make you feel like they're taking care of you, but your rankings are going to maybe have very slight to non-improvements, and the narrative around SEO too is that it is a long-term strategy, which is true in the sense that like you do want to continue to do it. It's kind of like going to the gym, right? It's like what it takes if you want to get that six pack, you want to get those big biceps, it's going to take a few years to get there, to get that body. But once you're there, it's more of a maintenance plan, right? Or if you're not trying to continue to build, you're needing to maintain that, or you will lose it. So that's kind of how I see, SEO as a long-term strategy. But it doesn't mean that it's going to take you multiple years to see a significant raise in your rankings. And so if you're not seeing that, if you're not seeing those results, then I don't care what's in the report, that you updated some plugins and you sent me a lot of information, a lot of tech jargon that I don't understand.
Right. That's interesting. So kind of backtracking a little bit to something you said earlier, that you guys are investing a lot of the money that your clients give you into the SEO marketing.
Yeah.
If ballpark, if someone was to come and give an agency $10,000 for SEO marketing, are they going to be putting in 20% of that into the SEO and they're taking back 80% to pay themselves? Or is that closer to like 50 or 60?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, that's really hard to say. It depends on
Of course.
Yeah, it depends. There's a lot of factors, right? So like if you have a large team, you got a lot of people you're paying. So like the labor that you're paying for is a part of that, right? So it's not just directly like paying a bill to another company. You're paying, you're paying for the people to actually do the work that is necessary for your website.
Yes.
You're paying other companies for services that they provide to help increase that up, increase that. And then also, or to help increase your rankings or give the content or post the content in the right places. Also, it really depends on your competition. If you come and give that, right, it depends on who you're trying to compete with, right? If you're trying to compete with a major legacy national brand, they're spending, and you're trying to spend $10,000 a month, but they're spending $100,000 a month. It's like, there's some difficulty there. It depends on where you want to be. If you're okay being, it's like if you're okay being number 2 or 3 or whatever, right, then you're going to be, then you don't need to spend all that. And it also just depends too on, are you trying to be national? Are you trying to be global? Are you trying to be local? Like, it's not uncommon for us to actually be able to rank a smaller local business, even on a national level, above things like Amazon or Walmart.
Really?
Because Google wants to promote local businesses. They have an inclination to do so. So if you set up your business correctly, if you set up that communication with Google, that trust with Google, if you set that up the right way, then you actually can outperform some of those giants.
All right. Now, different kind of question, but still kind of keeping with that idea of market saturation, competition, but for SEO and marketing companies. Would you say that SEO and digital marketing is a really saturated industry right now?
I would say that it's oversaturated with agencies without proven track records who like to spend their clients' money and gamble with it.
Interesting.
There are very few agencies that I'd actually trust to get my website ranked to the top of Google.
So if I was looking between different agencies and relatively new, I'm not really sure what I'm looking for. What are the red flags to tell me that these guys don't have my best interests at heart?
So the red flags that I would be looking for is if they don't charge enough, like I mentioned earlier, because it costs a lot of money to get you to the top. So if they're really charging you a really budget amount, you're going to get a really budget service, and you'd be better off taking that money somewhere else and growing it in a different way.
Right.
And then also if they don't have case studies, if they don't have a proven track record to do so. And, we make sure to provide case studies to any prospects that we talk to about providing SEO for them. And we also include a 100-day money-back guarantee.
Really?
We are very confident, and we do it I've never had to give that refund, but we do it because we want to build that trust. And because there are a lot of people like your friend that came into your email account that are emailing these businesses every single day and kind of making the trust that they have, that a business would have with a business like ours to kind of be questionable. So,
right.
Yeah, it's kind of an assurance that we give, and we've never had the methods that we use, the proven methods that we use with the case studies that we have. We've never had an instance where our methods didn't work.
It's pretty good.
I'm not saying it'll never happen, and maybe I will have to give that refund someday. But as of now, I'll knock on wood. As of now, I haven't had to refund anybody that has implemented our strategies.
And then I think we got time for one more question.
Sure.
So I'm going to rake you over the coals one more time.
No problem.
So let's get scary.
Oh, okay.
SEO, content, or digital marketing. What's the biggest threat that you guys face right now?
Again, it's really all the shitty agencies out there. Starting a sales conversation from zero, somebody that has no idea what SEO is one thing that that can be a little difficult. Starting it with a negative impression of your entire industry, now that's a challenge.
Right.
So it's really building that trust. We build trust with Google, but we also have to build trust with the client. And if they already feel distrustful of what you do, it can make it challenging.
It's all Siddhartha's fault.
Yeah. There's also other people that that aren't just cold emailing you, that people have hired. We've talked to a lot of people who are trying to switch agencies, and they hired someone they thought they could trust that was delivering them something, but we look at the results and it's like, well, the results speak for themselves. That's the biggest factor.
Yeah, no, there you go. It does seem like a really tricky industry to master. Again, like infinitely complex, infinitely deep.
Yeah. And fortunately, having Britt on our team as the leader of all of that trickiness, all of that hard master stuff has really been a huge benefit for us to set us apart.
I mean, it's hard to spend 10 years studying something and not pull out some stuff of value.
Yeah. It's, and she's also, I mean, one of the things that I am very aware of is she is one of the hardest working people I've ever met. So she works tirelessly at this business and has since the very beginning. When we met, she had been doing this for about a month. And I watched how hard she would work. She would work 100+ hours a week on her business. And sometimes the only meal she had time for was the breakfast I would cook her in the morning. I still cook her breakfast every morning, but now she has a little bit more of a work-life balance, but still is committed in a very real way to not only staying educated on what she needs to do to keep the results coming in for our clients, but also all the work that it takes to maintain these marketing strategies for our clients and to get them to rank to the top of Google.
That's great. Well, Justin, where can people find you and Britt?
So the easiest way to find me is just go to growingyourtraffic.com/Justin. That'll connect you to my LinkedIn and you can reach out to me there.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, Justin, thank you for sitting down with me. I've enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you so much, Kole. Really appreciate you having me on.
And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of A Businessman's Guide to Almost Everything. Come back in the near future. We should be having Britt on again. So that'll be fun. I think in that episode, we are going to be going over, you know what? I'm not going to tell you. You have to come back next time. So until then, you guys take care and we'll see you later. Bye.